everyone, welcome back to Cemetery Scout. I'm sorry for all the cars you're going to hear in the background of this video, but this graveyard is right next to a main road. We have made our way through Barrington, Rhode Island and Bristol, Rhode Island, and now I sit in Somerset, Massachusetts at the Bourn Cemetery. Let's take a look. Now, before we get too deep into some of the graves in this cemetery that I was able to do some research on, I wanted to point out some cool stuff about the cemetery itself. The first of which you're probably already noticing, which is just how seamlessly and easily all these trees are growing among the gravestones. I think that looks really cool. Something else that I read about that is also super apparent once you actually make it in the graveyard is how uniform all these graves are. From what I've seen, this suggests that these graves were mostly made around the same time, either way before the people who they represent died or way after. In fact, some of them don't even have death dates inscribed onto the stones yet, which means that most of these were probably built around the same time and were just set up for later use and never actually had a body put in them. And lastly, as you can see, only about half of the area enclosed by this big stone wall here actually has visible gravestones in it. There's some busted up ones a little closer to the back, but for the most part, the whole far end of this graveyard is mostly empty. But you can see some indentations in the ground, and it's hypothesized that there may be some coffins buried underneath the ground that just don't have any headstones. This here is Stephen and Deborah Bourn. I picked them out for no reason other than I found out that they lived across the street from this cemetery. Somewhere over there. Now, as you might have guessed, there's a whole lot of members of the Bourn family buried here in Bourn Cemetery. And I believe this guy is the oldest of them all, Francis Bourn. Nowadays, the Bourn family is mostly known for one thing, which is being distant relatives of Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, which makes this guy, Francis, Gene Roddenberry's great-great-great-great-grandfather. This right here is the grave of Jared Bourn. Now, I'm picking out this Jared here not because I know about him, but because I know about another Jared who, according to the common consensus, may be buried in one of those unmarked graves I was talking about on the back of the cemetery. That particular Jared, probably ancestor of this Jared, is widely considered to be the planter of the Liberty Tree, which, if you don't know, was a symbol of the American Revolution. It was used in protests against the Stamp Act, and it was eventually cut down by the British during the Battle of Boston to try to quell the revolutionary spirit of the colonists at the time. All right, that's all I've got today for Bourn Cemetery. I'm sorry I didn't have too much history to talk about in this one, but I actually think the visual aspect of this graveyard is a bit cooler than its history anyway. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I'll catch you next time.